It's time to rock. Welcome to a special episode, special show on the channel, folks. Do I sound okay? Is someone here? I realised that I was mucking around with my digital thing. What do you call it? My head rush. And when I do that, it has an effect sometimes on my audio. Fast, steady sounds good. Thank you, brother. Normally when I go live, we are in the green room, and I've got the Rock Professor and Brad there to let me know if I sound a little bit metallic-y. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a live review and bit of a chat, and I've got a musical sample of the guitar that I want to talk to you guys about. If you'll allow me to do that. Just give me a second. I'll do some homework here. I want to put, please consider becoming a channel member. We'd be grateful for your support. Look, as the thumbnail said, folks, I was fortunate enough a couple of days ago. I said I wouldn't buy any more guitars this year, and I haven't. So I managed to trade the guitar for another guitar from a friend of mine who was talking about it. Been talking about it for a couple of months, about getting rid of this bass guitar. Didn't really suit him, and he told me that it was a Hofner bass, and I've got some pics here to show you of it that he bought at Christmas time, and it didn't suit him. So I said, look, I'd be interested in doing some kind of deal. So we managed to do a trade early in the week for it. And this is what it looked like, folks, when I got it. You can see that's pretty much the standard pick there with the scratch plate, pick guard, whatever you want to call it. I've made some changes to it in the time being since I've had it. So I'll just pull my mic back. And here it is here, folks. It's the Chinese, what they call the Ignition model, Ignition series of the violin Hofner bass, made in China. So I've taken the scratch plate off to look a little bit like the bass that McCartney was using around the Let It Be sessions. Like most guitar nuts, I've ordered the Bassman sticker that should arrive in the next couple of days. So I'm going to put that on there. And again, you know, we've got a period correct kind of leather strap that McCartney was using. Couple of things I want to talk to you guys about with this bass, this guitar. I've watched a few reviews on YouTube about it, about this guitar. And the great thing about this guitar is that it allows you to upgrade it to German Hofner parts if you want. You can upgrade the control panel here, and a lot of guys have done that. Some guys haven't. Some of the Hofner experts, or most of them from what I've seen, rate the pickups, so there's no real need to change the pickups. I did do one thing though. I've got a couple of bass guitars, and for the last 5 years I've been using flats. And the reason why I like flats, it has nothing to do with the tone. It's got everything to do with the feel. I like the feel of a flat string when it comes to bass. This guitar had the original round type bass strings. Horrible. So I went and bought a set of mediums, flat wounds, Ernie balls. And again, you can go crazy if you want. A lot of guys will tell you to go and buy labellas or pyramid flat wounds to be period correct. I probably would have got those if they were local, but they weren't. You know, the two guitar shops that I deal with only had the Ernie balls. So you know, I needed to get it up and running, so I got Ernie balls for it. It makes a big difference. The videos that tell you about changing the strings are 100% correct. What else have I done? There was a HIBB thing on the truss rod cap, and I just sanded that off. And I got my friend Keith McMillan, our local luthier, to have a look at the action for me, because he's a bass player. He's got a couple of Hofners, original Hofners, and I just wanted to get a bit of an idea from him about the height of the action that you should be having on a Hofner type bass. So he set it up for me as best as he could. Recommends that I drop it off to him to get it. What do? Where they get they dress the frets, because there's a couple sticking up, and he's going to crown them so we can get the action just a little bit lower. So I'm going to do that this week. I'll give it to him this week to do that. But other than that, other than getting the Bassman sticker and putting on the flat wounds, which is $100 here in New Zealand for a set of those strings, it's pretty good. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video that a lot of other videos haven't really spoken about, so, you know, most of us are guitar players, but we've had basses, or we've got basses. You know, this is a full-scale bass, fretless. I've got a P bass. It's heavy. It's a full-scale bass, 35 inches or whatever. You know, and you know that you're going to a different instrument after, for example, playing an Epiphone or your Les Paul or a Strat. You know that you're going to a bass. And that's fine. Completely different instruments, aren't they, folks? But I had an epiphany when I picked up, this is the first time I've picked up a Hofner style bass, and it's literally featherweight. It's light. This one here is completely hollow bodied. The contemporary version, which is the next Chinese model up, has a solid block. But apparently this is modelled on the original Hofners. And I have to tell you, if you had your EQ in your mind set for a standard bass, you have to fiddle around for a long time to get an EQ to match the tone that you're getting from this guitar, or this type of guitar. It's remarkable. I'm not saying that I was a complete expert on all things Paul McCartney, but I wasn't consciously aware of it until I got this. This is a short scale. It's not a long scale. And then the penny dropped for me. Why McCartney loved this bass and the role of this bass in the Beatles music, that tone, the tonality, the way that this plays, the way that it gave him that ability to move around, to go from a guitar to a bass. It's so much easier. So my advice to you, you know, if you're a guitar player and you've thought about getting a bass, or you want to get a bass, go and check these out. Cheap as chips. These are $800 new in New Zealand, which is pretty cheap for an entry level Hofner, albeit made in China bass. You can upgrade it if you want. Or indeed, go and check out the short scale basses, which I never have done before. And it just makes the movement from going from a guitar to a bass so much easier, so much better, and then you get some pennies dropping. I'm just going to put this down. I've got to be very careful. These are very light too. Be careful when you lean it up again. They like to slide all over the place, so be careful of that. Hold on. So I've done a lot of talking. I just want to see if there's any comments here before I go to part 2. Beautiful bass. Nice score. Thank you. Bravo. Thank you. All right. How much does it weigh? I don't know. Not a very good review. But, you know, nowhere near as much as... You'd be surprised how light it was. Just holy cow. Just a remarkable experience. And then obviously you go out there and you're trying to play some Beatles riffs or some bits and pieces like that, which is really good. Always a good opportunity to do. Epiphany, that's like a cheap Gibson. Epiphone, yeah. Good on you, John. If you're watching this on replay, and I'm going to post this to the Hofner bass group on Facebook, because I got some great comments from you guys there on that Facebook group. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about the transition from being a guitar player and playing this instrument, as opposed to just being a bass player. So you know, I can understand why bass players would appreciate it, but the perspective that I'm coming from, if that makes any kind of sense, is, you know, it's so much easier to play, so much lighter, feels more comfortable, and will probably motivate me to play more bass, which can't be a bad thing, can it? Lighter or heavier than an acoustic guitar? You know what, John? I'm going to Google the weight of it. Hold on. See if we can get something. As light as my Martin. So it's saying about 2 kgs. That's what I'm reading. But again, back on track. So that hollow-bodied aspect of this Hofner bass and the EQ setting that McCartney would have had with his Vox amps and that 15-inch speaker originally when they were doing those first couple of albums, he had, you know, must have put a lot of thought into working out that tone. Remarkable instrument. My advice, if you're a bass player, well, you probably know about these Hofners. You've probably played them. But if you're a guitar player, Beatles nut, you want to get that kind of Beatles sound, or just have a cool bass. You know, that looks pretty interesting. That's not going to cost a fortune. You know, these have been out for about 10 years, so they're probably available second hand. You won't need to spend, you know, $800 New Zealand to get one brand new. A lot of upgrades you can do to them. You know, a lot of guys have changed the nut and put a 0 fret on. So you can buy that nut and 0 fret attachment and get that put on. There's a few videos where guys talk about that. I mentioned earlier the control panel. You can get the Hofner control panel, and that basically just fits in. That's about $300-400 New Zealand. I don't know if I'll do that. Incidentally, too, for all you Van Halen nuts out there, Paul McCartney used one of these, a clip. He used to clip the end of his guitar strap through these hooks and used to hook it just on this tailpiece here. Around 66, 67 he was doing that. We know another guitarist who used to use a lot of these hooks too. Eddie Van Halen. What bass amp are you playing through? Okay, so I'm going to play you guys a sample. I'm not a bass player. You can't do a review or talk about an instrument if you're not going to play a little bit of music. So I've managed to do that. I recorded something direct. I just used the flip over Ampeg model on my head rush Brody. At work I've got a Rumble. I've got a Fender Rumble at work, Fender 100, which sounds really good, that I keep with a couple of other basses at work. If this bass journey progresses, I'll probably have to look at getting, mind you, the Rumble sounds good. You know, I've had the Rumble for a couple of years. I've played and jammed my fretless through it, and my P bass sounds pretty good. It's got a few knobs on there so you can get a few different tonal variations. So I'm going to play for you guys a little bit of the bass. See what you think. Always flat wounds, Brody. I mentioned that at the top of the show. It came with the original round wounds. Never liked them. Love flat wounds. All my basses, I like the flats because of the way it feels. It's got nothing necessarily to do with tonality, but certainly on the Hofner, you can hear it. The difference. You got to have flats. And my point is, with the Hofner, when you get one, it's just not a simple matter of plugging it in to your bass amp and using those same EQ settings that you had with your solid bass, because it'll sound horrible. Well, it'll sound completely different. You'll have to fiddle. You have to spend a bit of time, at least I did anyway, trying to get that EQ to take into account that hollow aspect of it. And if I change the nut, like I said to you guys with the zero nut, the tonality again, according to what I've read over the last couple of days, will change. So flats for sure on that bass. Yeah, 100%. So look, thanks guys for hanging out with me, doing this live little review on the Hofner bass for guitar players. I fully recommend, if you're a guitar player, if you're after that 60s sound, if you want a nice, comfortable bass just to have, you know, in your music room or at home, check out the Hofner. There's a range of them. You know, the cheap Ignition one that I got, you know, or the contemporary, and then obviously, you know, here in New Zealand you can spend $6,500 and get a made in Germany Hofner, you know, which is top dollar for a darn good instrument. But the ease of going from the guitar, when you're a guitar player, to the Hofner, it's just yeah, it's really cool. It's great. Thanks guys, thanks Brody, thanks for hanging out with us. John ZD351, Fast Eddie, All Right, Die Band, Ulster, Studel Mark, forgive me for my bad German pronunciation. Johnny Heartbreaker, thank you bro. And if you're watching this on a replay, let us know what you think of this bass, if you've got it, or Hofner basses. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. I'm going to be back in about 6 hours time with the Rock Professor and Brad. We're going to be ranking the first greatest hits album. We always said that we would never do a greatest hits album, but we're doing the first and last, and it's Wings' greatest, in honor of Paul McCartney turning 82, 81 or 82. Gosh, a couple of weeks ago. So we look forward to that. Looks good. Great review. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Go and check them out. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please subscribe. If you want to be on our channels page, let me know. Flick me a message and I'll put your channel on our channels page. Every show we do, we ask our friends to go and subscribe to our friends on their channel page as well. So I'm asking you, if you haven't already done that, go and check out our friends. Everybody that we love is on there with their channels. Go and subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps that channel. Peace. We'll see you guys later.